Hello, and welcome to another entry of the Caregiver Diaries with G and Mac.
I'm G.
And I'm Mac. And today we have a special guest. And our special guest is Miss Jawanda Mackey.
And Jawanda is going to be talking to us today, Mac. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I actually got a chance to get away a little bit. I thought my mother was probably going to be putting out an APB on me. I went to Kansas City
Nice.
To see the Chiefs play with my daughter. We haven't had a by ourselves road trip in a long time. We tailgated at the game and they lost, but it was preseason, so it was okay. So then I got home yesterday. Then last night I got to go see Gregory Porter, and it was just the concert was just the best.
Wonderful,
So,
wonderful.
Yes, I said my mother be looking out, putting the APB out. So I really needed it because I was, sometimes with caregiving you just get overwhelmed,
Right.
And it doesn't have to be anything in particular that happens. It's just that day to day, and I find that the longer, I'm going on year 7 now, with my mom. So I think, of course, I'm getting older, and the longer I caregive, sometimes it's stress. Plus, I'm having some stuff done around the house, so just kind of, it was good to get away.
And that's what we talked about in our earlier episodes about having that time for yourself and being good to yourself. So I'm glad you were able to do that.
Right. So I know you said your mother has your mom's birthday.
Yeah.
Okay. You all are.
So we're going to be celebrating that today. My mom turned 77. So she had a fall last week. And I said, we fall down, but we have to get back up and keep moving. So
hopefully. Did you say your dad fell too?
Yeah. And then I fell. So we all three fell in the same week. So
okay, so I need to probably be having you sit on the other side or something because I don't have time to fall. Okay. Okay. So let's get back to the situation at hand.
Yes.
And once again, we have Jawanda Mackey with us today, and Jawanda is a LPN, and she has pretty much dedicated her entire career to long-term care facilities, as well as she has been a caregiver for her mom, a caregiver for her dad, and now she's currently caregiver for 2, I think it is, developmentally disabled youth. So she definitely understands caregiving. But today, if you could just talk with us about, just about what to look for in facilities. I know there are different state laws and things like that, but just whatever you want to share with us about long-term care.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for the invite. The topic, even the subject matter of just taking care of your elderly loved ones, looking for a nursing facility, an assisted living facility, is one that I don't think, I will say for myself growing up, watching my parents as a child, you never think about that time when you may need to take care of them. Even as you see their elders growing old and passing on, you just don't think about it. You think about your whole life, what you want to do when I grow up, have kids, have a family, this is the career I want, so forth. But you never equate that part of when mom and dad grows old, or in the event when there's a significant ailment that may occur that requires them to provide care. My mom, I took care of her in my home. It was just too much for my dad, so I moved her in with me. I have 7 siblings, but maybe you guys are aware of this. They all don't show up. So
more than aware of that.
And sometimes it's just that I had to realize that sometimes it's just that not so much that they don't want to. Some are just not capable of that. And sometimes it's just that you're that individual that have determined that you're going to dedicate your time in your life. And for me, initially, that was frustrating. Then I had to realize this is what it is.
Yeah.
this is my choice.
Mhm.
And so my mother health began to fail at 59.
Wow.
So I moved her in with me. I did have one sibling that helped as much as she could at that time. But I was in my 30s at the time. My mom has been gone almost 30 years now. I was in my 30s at that time. I had a 2 and a 4-year-old, and I worked
Wow.
12-hour shifts in a long-term care facility, skilled nursing, and my husband worked 7 days a week. So it was a rough time.
Mhm.
Yes.
But through it all, we made it through those times. And I knew my mother did not want to be in the nursing home. She had retired from being a certified nurse's aide. And so that was one thing that we talked about. And it wasn't what I wanted her where I wanted her to be.
Yeah.
So when my dad's health began to change, and I moved him in with me as well. This is probably 20 years after my mother had passed. And my intent was for him to live with me until he transitioned as well. And by the way, my mother transitioned at home with me. And so she was there to the end. I was there the whole entire time.
That
My
always,
dad,
I didn't mean to cut you off, but I hear that, and because my mom is 91 and with me, and I always fear every day when I wake up, I fear what I might find,
what you will face. Yeah.
face when I get up. And to me, Jawanda, that just scares me. It's almost like I'm afraid to be here with her when that happens for some reason. So, I'm glad to hear you say that, but it's just a fear of mine. But then I'm thinking, like, she was in the hospital one time and I got a call while she was in the hospital. As soon as I saw the name of the hospital, that just freaked me out.
Yeah.
So I said, either way it goes, I'm probably it's gonna be a hard situation anyway. But I'm just like, I just don't know. That just frightens me, and I don't know why.
and it's difficult, but I'm coming from and I can understand your fear, especially. For me, I'm used to this.
Right.
I'm working skilled care. I'm that person that's pronouncing someone deceased.
Okay.
I'm the
Okay.
one that's calling
Okay.
the mortuary. I'm the one that's helping getting them bagged up at the nursing home. So,
Okay.
for me, but it's different when it's mama.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's different when it's mom. I still stepped into that nursing role that I've been playing for many years, but it was mama this time. So, so it is a hard thing. And I would imagine for people who don't have that background, who are trying to be the best caregivers that they can be, that's a very difficult time.
Yeah.
And that's a time that you just have to pull in all the resources, family, friends that you may have to pull them into that process. It was difficult for me at the time because I was a little salty with some of the siblings because you wasn't there. And so now, do I want you here or do I want you away?
Right.
And I had to come to that conclusion that I chose to do what I did.
Right.
And this is still their mother.
Right. Right.
So we got past all that.
Right.
But it was a difficult time.
Yeah.
But when my dad was here, he took a fall, and that fall ended up where it did so much damage until I couldn't bring him back home. And as much as he had asked me to, I want to go back home with you, I couldn't. At that time, I'm working a job that I traveled 75% of the time. My kids were teenagers. My husband was in heart failure on a transplant list. So it was difficult. I had brought dad in when my husband was on the transplant list. He was sick. I had my daddy. I'm traveling. I got two teenage daughters. Another one of those rough times.
Right.
So
we do say, Jawanda, I'm sorry, we always say to people, because my mom doesn't want to be in a nursing home either, and I'm gonna
Right.
keep her here as long as I can. But
Sure.
sometimes you just
Can't
have
have
to
it.
you have to do this.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
have
You
to
have
make
Make
that
that hard
decision.
even if it's not their wish.
It's what's
Sometimes you
best.
just have to do it.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes
I
you
don't
have
want
to
people
do it.
beat up on
And I will
themselves.
say this, most people in you all's position as it was with my father, come to that place where you have to make that decision, where you can no longer take care of them depending on their disability, what's going on, with, whether they're needing a Hoyer lift at this point. Are
Right.
they having dementia to a point that it's not safe for them to be home anymore?
Right.
You can't keep them in a room.
Right.
So, do I need mama? I can't have mama by the stove. So, so we have to look at all of those things.
Right.
And you can't, it's hard to do that. And you want to blame yourself. You want to make sure, but most of us, for me, I didn't have the money to keep my dad, to hire someone privately to keep him home with me.
Right.
And it would have been way too much anyway. So my house just wasn't built for it at that time. So I had to make that decision. And I had, as you mentioned, Mac, I had that situation where it was the next day, your daddy got to move. And okay, by this time, my father had been in a specialty facility for so long, 9 months, that he had run out of money. And so I've never dealt with Medicaid.
Yeah.
I've been a nurse. I've never dealt with Medicaid, Medicare, none of all of those things. And so now someone's telling me he has to go today. Well, we're out of money now. You kept him long enough to take all of his money. Now you want him to go. So I'm looking around. I had him at a nursing home before. I knew the director of nursing there. I knew the administrator. So I felt comfortable there. But once he went into the hospital and he couldn't come back out, and now they don't want him back because he has no money. He's run out of his Medicare Part A, so they can't make no money on that. Now I got to find somewhere for someone to take him. And fortunately, I found one facility that was 45 minutes away that would take him, that would help me apply for Medicaid. That helped me with that. So you have social workers at some of these facilities that will help you. If they're looking to fill some beds, they have a certain percentage. If it's Medicaid that you're dealing with, your family is not just private pay, you're dealing with Medicaid. And at this point, even though all the insurances my daddy had and all that, well, we're out of money. We're at that place where, what am I going to do with his house? I'm going to have to sell his house. I'm going to have to do this. I got to get him into a place. So I did have their marketing department, their case management department helped me. They said, well, we'll help you file for Medicaid.
Do most facilities have a marketing department?
Most, yeah.
Okay.
They have a marketing department. They have their department with their social workers that can help with these processes. It's just a matter of, most facilities only want a percentage of Medicaid clients.
Yeah, see, I found out with my mom, because when she got out the hospital, and it took me almost 2 or 3 months. I hate to say this, but I was almost glad that my mom didn't have anything like a house and anything like that, because on one hand, it was easier, but it took me 2 months to 3 months to get her qualified for Medicaid. And the only way it happened, because I kept getting frustrated, and I asked the caseworker at the state, I said, so who can I talk to? And she said, to be honest, contact your state representative. And I thought, yeah, okay. So I did email my mom's situation. I said, look, I work, I'm paying for a daughter in college. I've been a taxpayer. My mother's been a taxpayer all her life, blah, 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 blah. I voted for you, blah, 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 blah. So I'm figuring I'm not going to hear anything back. So, but what was holding it up was my mother had these two little annuities. But anyway, so I kid you not, 2 days later, I got a call from somebody from Medicaid and said, "Oh, I'm calling on behalf of Representative blah, 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 blah." And I see the hold. I was looking at your mother's case, the hold up. She's a little bit over the limit and blah, 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 blah. But let me look into this a little further. So I'll call you back. So that was like on a Friday, and she didn't call on Monday. So I was getting ready to be mad and call on Tuesday. Honey, first thing Tuesday morning, she called and said, your mom is not qualified for Medicaid. But now, and I know states are different, but what we have to do, because she's over the limit by a few $100s, we have to put that money into a trust every month.
Right.
But that trust, we can use it for medical stuff. So
yeah,
I use it for stuff like that. But it was, you have to be diligent. You have to be steadfast.
Yeah,
you
you
have
do.
to be a bulldog,
Right.
because they make
do.
you wait. They make you wait. And I think they want you to get
The
discouraged.
system is designed for you to become frustrated and throw your hands up.
Right.
Well, part of the issue is this: we don't prepare for this.
Yeah.
We don't prepare for a mom and dad aging, mom and dad taking that fall that they don't get up from, that disease that you didn't anticipate.
Right.
We don't prepare for it. And so then once we have it, and most of us now are living middle class lives, we don't know much about all of these other government assistance because we didn't have to have them.
Right.
We never have utilized them. So then it becomes like, wait a minute, what? I don't know how to do, and I don't know what Medicaid is like,
Right.
in Illinois, but in Nebraska, that was worse than buying a house. It was,
Right.
It's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
So it's good to find someone that does know.
Right.
These nursing homes, they can help you out with that.
Right. And you said that, so they have certain number of people that have Medicaid. They
want a certain percentage,
right,
because nursing homes don't make a lot of money, if they make any, period. And if they make some, it's going to be on their private pay.
Okay.
But for the most part, most nursing homes are breaking even.
Okay.
It's not a business where it's lucrative and I'm going to make some money.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay.
So, so that's why they can't have 90% Medicaid, because the reimbursement rate is so low. They couldn't, their doors would close.
Okay.
So that's what they're dealing with on their end, but they do have a percentage that they will take in. Now you got to find the good ones.
Right.
And just because it's overlooking Lake Ooh La La doesn't make it a good one. It's the people inside the building that makes it a good one. I was very reluctant when I moved my dad 45 minutes away. I'm sending him, I knew the town because I traveled all the time. So I was familiar with the area, but he was going to be the only Black man in the building. That gave me some apprehension. So now we're talking about, how do I ensure that my father is cared for and he's 45 minutes away? Well, first of all, let's go back to looking for a facility. Go and visit that facility. See what it looks like. Just walk in the building. I know they want you to make an appointment, come in so we can show you what our building, that's marketing and sales. We're going to show you our building. Number one, but they're going to say, well, we can set you up an appointment. No, just pop up. See what it smells like. See what the people look like. Are they all slumped over in a chair in the hallway looking like, zombies? You don't want your mother to look like, or your father to look like? Or do they look happy? Do they look like, even though I'm in a nursing home, things are going well for me? What does that look like? What does it smell like? Does the staff interact with you when you walk in the door? Is anyone saying anything, or is everyone too busy doing something else? So those things you have to look at to see, is this the right place for me? Once you do that, they might say, well, ma'am, we can't give you a tour right now. Well, that's because they want to spruce things up. Just say, well, can you just walk me through the halls? You know, is there a room you can show me? Because they usually have a room set aside specifically to show you. As any sales, you always want to show your best. But now we already know the reality is that's not how it's going to be. You're always going to be there's always going to be some staff challenges. That's just the nature of the beast in this particular industry.
And like you said, like here in St. Louis, Chesterfield's a area, Clayton,
affluent areas,
Creve Coeur kind of, and people tend to think if it's someplace on the other side of town, it's got to be the best. But they're hiring the same people.
They're hiring the same
on the other side of town. Right.
I would say this: some of your not as affluent places can be the best because those people in that particular area have worked in that nursing home for many years. They have dedicated their life to this. This is their career. This is not just something I want to do to get me through school. So I really don't care that much. But this is something that I have dedicated my life to. And you're looking for those people that have dedicated their life to caring for them.
Can you ask, the average amount of years that the aides have worked?
Sure, you can ask those questions. Now, I don't know that you're going to get a legitimate answer.
Right.
But yeah, you want to know about the staff. Yeah. And the best thing you can do once you select a nursing home is get acquainted with the staff on the floor.
Right.
Hey, if it's nursing home week, take them something.
Yeah.
If their birthdays, send something up there, because those are going to be the people that's going to say, hey, Miss Mac, hey, Miss G, your mama, your daddy ain't feeling good, or I think something's going on. I'm not quite sure. I told the nurse, but they ain't respond. They'll be the ones to let you know
build those relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to build relationships. And you want to be there frequently because it's because of reimbursement rates. It's because of the frequent staff turnover and the shortage in nursing assistants and nurses, period, that makes it so difficult in nursing homes. I think most people working in nursing homes want to do their best. They just do not have the resources or the time to do their best. Most states don't have a nurse-patient ratio. They leave that up to the facility themselves to write out a policy to indicate. And that might just say sufficient staff.
Okay.
But who gets to define that? They do.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, you got 20 residents, so we need at least 5 staff members.
Yeah.
Most don't have that because they cannot afford that. And the states know it. So they allow them to determine what that policy is supposed to look like.
Okay.
So it's good to visit frequently. I say people get together with your family, figure out, hey, you got 20 minutes. You don't have to be up there all day. If Joe got 20 minutes and Sarah got 5 minutes and you got some on Monday, they can hit it on Wednesday. However, but make your presence known, because the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Oh, yeah.
Now, they know that you visit often. They're going to make sure mama's socks is matching, mama looks good, mama's hair is done.
That's right.
They're going to make sure of all of those things. And then if you coming in and you thanking them, and congratulating them and showing your appreciation, mama's gonna get a little bit more attention.
Now let me ask
But
you a
if you
question.
come in and all you got is bitchy, bitchy, bitchy all the time, excuse my language, they already tired. They already short-staffed. They already underpaid. And now I gotta hear you. I understand your complaint, but ma'am, I'm doing the best that I can do.
Right. Yeah.
I remember my first nursing home job as a charge nurse. I was just out of school, proud, and I'm gonna go in here. And I went to work for a nursing home. They had 60 residents. There was 2 nurses aide and me. It was crazy. It gave me the best experience ever. I'm happy to say that place is no longer open, as it should not have been open then. There was no way, all that I learned in nursing school, there was no way I could provide the care for 60 people. I had medication to do, treatments to do, charting to do. I had someone come up from the kitchen. I was the dietitian. So and so's on a diabetic diet. Can we give him? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait. What?
Right.
I'm still, I got all of this going on, and then I got some resident hitting me and telling me to go to hell and tell the devil I sent you, all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot going on, and I was doing my best. But I could probably say for many of the families, if they would have came up at that time, my best wasn't good enough.
Right.
But it wasn't my fault.
Right.
It was the circumstances that you deal with in the nursing home. So those staff members need as much support from the families as they can possibly get. They need you to advocate for them.
Now I have a question. What if you don't have a big village and it's just you as a caregiver? Now I know state laws differ, but is it possible to have a camera in your person's room where you can watch? Because we're getting so sophisticated with technology. I wonder if that's an option nowadays.
I don't know if it is, and it possibly could be for someone with a private room. I know it wouldn't be for someone that share a room.
Right.
Because then that would be a violation of their privacy.
Exactly.
I know that they probably would not want that for many reasons, because there's things about that process of being a caregiver that someone might say, I don't like the way that they did that. I don't like the way they turned.
That's abusive. Yeah.
That's, which we've really, on a federal level, they put in so many new regulations to kind of crack down on abuse. That's not to say that it doesn't happen. But when it comes to mama, you want everything to be just right. And it's not going to be that. I can remember my dad saying, why do I have to wait so long for somebody to come? And they could hear him yelling, hey out there, get in here.
Right.
But my dad was also that man that when he said, hey, we all jumped and came running. He didn't wait on nothing from nobody. And he was, he was ex-military. So if you say, Daddy, I'm picking you up at 11 o'clock, he was standing outside at 10:45 saying, what took you so long? So I had to factor in all of that too.
Yeah.
You got a certain one, they say, well, you got to answer a call light within 5 minutes. You say 5 minutes, I could pee on myself in 5 minutes.
Right.
But 5 minutes is a reasonable time when I got 3 other people who got their call light on too.
That's right.
My big fear when my mother first went to a facility, when she first got out of the hospital from her strokes, she has aphasia. And she's better. She still has it, but she can advocate for herself a little more than then. So that was really just really rough on me, because how are they going to know it's time to see her to go to the bathroom? Because she couldn't get up and go to the bathroom for herself and anything like that. So that was but I had finally, she got to a point where we had this little alarm thing that was easier for her to push than the one that they had at the daycare. at the hospital, at the nursing home. But what really got me was they have been saying, okay, we're going to be moving your mom. You know, you got to find a place. So we found a place, and I get a call like at 11 o'clock at night, saying on a Saturday night that your mother has been transported to the skilled facility. 11 o'clock at night. Of course, I'm panicked. I get there, and then of course there's nobody. The nurse was, it was a nurse there, but there was nobody else.
No management team.
No, that's right, to receive. I was, and luckily I was out, as a matter of fact, and I'm glad, because a friend was with me. Because if I had been by myself, I don't know what would have happened. I was so mad. I was so upset. I didn't know what to do. You done just dropped my mama here. At night, on a weekend, of course, and I couldn't talk to anybody until Monday.
Did they say why?
No. Well, we don't. I did how you can do a report. I wrote upside down all around. First of all, don't transfer anybody on a weekend and you don't have anybody, but the bed was available, and we didn't want it to not, we didn't want her to not get that bed, or whatever. But that was just really,
that was traumatic.
Yeah, that was very traumatic, very traumatic. Yeah.
So they transfer her from the hospital, to a nurse home at 11 o'clock at night
on a Saturday,
unbeknownst to you.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yes. So I gave them a real, I talked to a whole lot of.
You know whose fault that is? That's social workers at the hospital.
Okay.
Coordinating that,
because that shouldn't have never happened. You should have been notified. It wasn't the nursing home's fault.
Okay.
They're going to take the person in no matter what.
Right.
If anybody is pissed off, it's that nurse who's there by themselves and might have 2 aides on duty on a weekend.
Right. Okay.
How dare you send someone to me? That's how I would feel as a nurse.
Right.
How dare you send someone for me because the admission process at the nursing home is long and extensive. You got to get doctor's orders. You got to get medications. You got so many things you have to do that late at night. I know they're doing more and more on weekends, but the hospital dropped the ball. The hospital wanted that bed. They found a place.
Okay.
And so they're going to move her. So I blame the hospital for that.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. I never thought about it like that. Right.
Yeah.
I was just upset because there was just nobody there. Yeah, to receive, the nurse was there, of course, doing what she needed to do. It was just traumatic. That's all. Yeah, but I can understand.
So they didn't call probably the social worker at the facility, and they, instead of them saying that can't happen tonight, they gave the okay. Okay. I would probably guess that the staff on duty had no idea she was coming.
Right. And that's the impression I got too. But I hadn't even thought about why the hospital would have done it. So that
the hospital wanted that bed. Yeah, they probably had someone down that they didn't have that's getting ready, that's been in that 24-hour hold. And now I need a bed.
Okay.
Who can we move out? Okay. They don't care. They have discharged people to home.
Okay.
At 11 o'clock at night.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But unfortunately, this time your mom wasn't going home. If she was going home with you and they said, you would say, well, why 11 o'clock at night? But it's okay because I'm going to get her and she's coming home with me. That's ridiculous. Right. But now you done moved her not to home, but you done moved her to a facility unbeknownst to me.
Right. Yeah,
that's a problem.
That was pretty traumatic. One other incident, my mother fell out the bed. They didn't call me when she fell out the bed at night. But then next day I'm at work and they said, oh, your mother's a little off today. I don't know how they said it. And we're going to and she fell last night.
Was this the hospital or the nursing home?
This is the nursing home.
Oh.
they didn't call me when she fell out the bed. But then the next day, they were saying she seemed a little bit, I don't know how they were describing. I just say not with it. So, because she had the fall last night, we're going to take her to the hospital. I'm like, fall? What fall? What do you mean she had a fall? Oh, they didn't notify you? No. Because if I had known she fell, guess who would have been at the nursing home? I would have been at the nursing home. So they dropped the ball on that. I don't care.
Yeah, because there's a process. If you have any kind of injuries at the nursing home, you got to notify the physician, the next of kin. There's a report that you got to complete. There's documentation in the chart you have to do.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that have to do to cover the facility to prevent liability.
Right.
From being sued.
Right.
So someone clearly dropped the ball on that, and I would start with the charge nurse on duty.
And I don't know if you can answer this or not, but okay, so I know that facility that she was in, so they had a nursing home part, I guess, and then they had a skilled
like rehab
part. So my mother got to a point where they wanted her, they were thinking about she needed to go to the nursing home part of things. So my question was, how do you determine if a patient can make progress or not? Because at that time, my mother was on a feeding tube. She wasn't talking. She couldn't walk, that kind of stuff. So, but my question is, so you're going to just let her sit and do nothing? Are you going to do any kind of rehab or anything like that? So I went in and talked to the doctor, Jawanda. And had I not done, I talked to the doctor. I said, look, I'm just wondering, what's the plan for my mom? Do you think she's going to be able to recover anything and blah, blah, blah. He said, well, no, looking, I'm just thinking that she's probably the best she's going to be. So then I said, well, when she had the first stroke, because my mother had 2 strokes within a couple, 2 or 3 hours of each other. One was at home, the other was when she was in the hospital. And the first stroke she had, she could do everything but talk. So it just affected the language part, but she could do everything but talk. But then after that is when she had the brain bleed. So, and then all of a sudden nothing. So I said to the doctor, when she had the first stroke, she could do blah, 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 blah. But then when she had that second one, blah, 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 blah. So then he says to me, Jawanda, oh, well, in that case, she might be able to recover some things. So had I not gone in, advocating, talking to that, so evidently he hadn't read my mother's file thoroughly,
wrote her off,
because he would have known. But
was this individual the medical director?
He was the doctor. He was doctor on staff.
Yeah, the medical director.
Yes, he was. And I guess my mother was 85 when she had her stroke. So I guess her situation. But when I said, when she had the first stroke, blah, 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 second, okay, well, in that case, maybe. So then all of a sudden we're going to start giving her therapy. But
I would think that when she discharged from the hospital, she would have discharged on Medicare A, which qualifies you for the therapies.
But they were not giving her any therapy.
So she didn't discharge from the hospital with rehab intentions.
Right. Evidently not, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
I would say to anyone that has someone that's in the hospital, that you can see that they have some rehab, even if you can't see the rehab potential, they have a Part A Medicare. Right. That you can at least make that attempt for rehab potential.
This was and when they were getting ready to try to move her, I think her Medicare was getting ready to run out, but they still hadn't been giving my mother any kind of thing.
Here's what happens sometimes. Now you have the hospitals that can use that Medicare A part for rehab. And so they're going to keep that money. Now, they may not be doing anything. They ain't started no occupational therapy, physical therapy, but she's taking up this bed and we're getting paid for that. So by the time they get to the nursing home, she only has so much of that Part A left. Because she done used 60 days sitting around at the hospital rehab floor, them doing nothing. And now she gets to the facility, the nursing home skill rehab, and now they only got 30 days left.
Right.
Because, or however many days, 40 days left. I think you get 100 days rehab.
But see, my mom was in the hospital for a couple, probably 2 or 3 months, maybe. I don't even.
So they're probably using up that Part A at the hospital level. I don't know the whole situation. This is just a guess of mine. They're using up that part that could have been used for rehab
at the facility.
Right. So you can ask them, do you have a rehab facility that my mother can be transferred to?
But the person you're talking to in this instance is the social worker who's coordinating all these benefits.
You're talking to the search work. You're talking to them. First of all, you're talking to your mother or your loved one's physician.
Right.
You get, because they're writing the orders.
Okay.
Right.
So if the hospital's going to try to keep them as long as they can, if it's in their best interest to accrue the monies that they have. But if you are talking with their physician and you want them, hey, I'm trying to get I want mom to have as much rehab as she can have.
Right.
What's in her best interest? If you see that something's not going according to what you think should be happening, and every time you go up, ain't no physical therapy, occupational therapy, nobody walking her down the hall, let's move mom.
See, my mother couldn't. See, my mother, when she left my mother still couldn't do anything when she left. She couldn't swallow. My mother couldn't do anything when she left the hospital.
She may not have been able to do much.
Okay.
But you don't know what she could have done if they weren't attempting. They may, because she was 85 years old.
Right.
I can remember when my dad had the G tube, he had lost about 50 pounds. He looked like he was on his way out. He can't swallow. He can't. Yeah, okay. I understand what we're dealing with. Let's get him moved to where I want him moved to.
Right.
Let's get this figured out. Let's see how much he can rehab.
Right.
I know what kind of man he was, a very independent person.
Yeah.
We got to factor in the dignity and the respect for him.
I think they were just ready to write my mom off.
Yeah.
They was probably ready because she's 85. She just had a stroke. She's not eating. She's dysphagia.
I had
all of that.
I probably appealed 3-4 times because they were ready to kick her out. Now I appealed. And then finally we, got her on. And she didn't take, this is what happened too. She didn't take to the rehab people much. Once she kind of started, she still was on the goal was to get her off the feeding tube before she came home. They were trying to do something, they putting her in the chair. So she was starting to do a little more, but she did not take to the rehab people, the therapists.
Yeah.
He had this real condescending, talking to her like she's 2 or 3. Jawanda, I was getting phone calls at work. Could you please talk to your mom and ask her to participate in therapy, please? I'm just like, Mom, come on. But she just didn't take.
Well, Mom is probably like, I'm full grown and you ain't gonna tell me what to do. And I don't feel like doing it.
Like
so go on and get out of my face. So, and I understand that. I would say probably I've seen more success. People don't like to hear this, but I've seen more success at rehab at a skilled nursing facility during that Medicare A rehab stay that you're trying to rehab them to home. I've seen more success with that than I have with hospital rehab stay. Unless they're actually in a rehab unit.
Right.
Where, like, you have some hospitals that haven't not attached, we're gonna take it to the fifth floor.
My mother was at one of those too. One of the times she came back home and had to go into another one, and they were on point.
Yeah.
They were on point.
But just like you mentioned about hospital versus nursing home rehab, I can attest to the hospital not being as good as the nursing home because
Uh-huh.
my mother, when she was in the hospital, the physical therapist came in the room. My mother had to go to the restroom. My mother came out of the restroom. The physical therapist was only in there for 10 minutes. She said, well, that other 10 minutes she was in the restroom, and that time counts towards her physical therapy per the state. I'm like, what? Well, they only give me X amount of minutes. So by her going to the restroom, that counted towards that time allotted for her, which was crazy to me.
Well, I'm going to tell you this about nursing homes. Nursing home nurses, nursing home staff, those certified nurses aides,
Mm-hmm.
they are used to doing everything that is done in the hospital.
Yeah.
Your nursing home nurse is the diabetic nurse. If they're no longer getting rehab, she's the physical therapist. She is the respiratory therapist. She's doing the breathing treatment. She's checking the lung sounds. They do it all. This is the credit that nursing home nurses don't get.
Mm-hmm.
They have to know how to do it all because those residents that once they are done with rehab, that maybe don't make it back home and end up in the long-term care, but they still got to be walked. So you got restorative care walking them down the hallways to make sure that those are things that you have to do. Nursing homes are under so much scrutiny from state and federal levels because there's been such a bad representation for them over the years. And over the years, there's been tremendous progress. I can remember when it was like, dog, I can't remember. This is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember when you could restrain somebody in a chair.
Yeah.
Sorry. And leave them there.
Yeah.
Where now you can't use no restraint in a nurse. You better have a waiver signed, good reasons to use it. You can't just do that. But I've been in the hospital where they set somebody in the chair and you seen anybody? No, I ain't seen nobody.
And you were when you were talking about advocating and being there and being nice, and that kind of stuff, you really have to be nice to them. And sometimes you can be so nice. One girl, I don't want you telling me, on one hand, I want to know everything that's going on wrong here. But on the other hand, I can't get my mama out of here now. So I don't know that I want to hear everything, everything that's going on around here. So,
Yeah.
but basically you say you just have to advocate for them.
You have to establish rapport. My dad was 45 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
But I already knew the administrator that was coming on, the social worker or whoever was in the billing department that helped me with it, filling out the Medicaid papers and all that. It was a hot mess because I had the state telling me that you cannot, your dad still has his home. He still has to make those payments. You cannot apply. I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place. What am I doing with his house? What do I need to do? Okay, so I talked to someone, they says, well, if you have anyone with a disability here in Nebraska, if you want them to take over the home, you can. And I had a brother who had a disability, but he didn't want the house. Okay. So now I'm stuck back to where I was at. So, I was being told by the people from the state that, no, you can't just not pay your dad's mortgage. That's against the law. So I'm talking to I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. I've never been here. I don't know nothing about Medicaid, Medicare. I don't know anything about any of that from a personal standpoint. And so I'm talking to the girl who's helping me get my dad placed in this nursing home 45 minutes away, rural area, rural. He's the only colored man in the building now. And I'm apprehensive for that reason alone. But she's helping me. And she says, don't worry about what they say. Just let the house go into foreclosure. Let them worry about it. Well, now I got to pay them. I got to pay the nursing home. My dad has a pension. He has a home. I got to get that mortgage money. Now I got the situation where my dad had automatic withdrawal for his mortgage. I have power of attorney. I'm calling the mortgage company. Hey, I have power of attorney, da 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 da. We don't acknowledge power of attorney. Your dad has to call and says that he doesn't want automatic withdrawal anymore. Well, at that time, my dad couldn't even speak.
I know.
So I'm like, okay, well, what the hell am I going to do now? He can't speak. And that couldn't speak and he was disoriented.
You should have had this. You should have had
Let me tell you what I did.
Act like your dad.
Wait a minute, I'm gonna tell you what I did.
I impersonated my mother a couple times on.
Wait a minute, that's what I did. I called right back because I know everything about my dad. I know his social security number, everything by heart. I called back. Hello, this is Miss Smith. And I called right back. I said, so you don't want automatic? No, cut off that automatic withdrawal.
Yes, you have to.
Well, yes, sir.
You have to do.
Yes.
I had to do what I had to do.
I took my
and I'm in my car. I had taken a break. You know, I didn't even want to be in my office. I was at work. I was in my office. I didn't even want to be in my office because I was afraid somebody might walk in, knock on the door. So I went out in the parking lot in my car and I did all of this.
I took my mother's hand one time because I was trying to get medical power of attorney. And we signed, and then I said, oh, Lord, I've been doing, I had to call to get some information with these couple of annuities. I'm like, I'm Helen Bell. So I shouldn't have said my mother's name. But anyway, you do, but you know what? You do what you have to do.
You do what you I was stuck. And that woman at that nursing home, I don't even remember her name. I should have remembered for life and have a plaque with her name on it.
Okay.
But she says, just let it go.
Yeah.
If your brother don't want the house, let it go. Because the mortgage company was still taking that part of the money.
Right.
So I'm racking up the bills over here. Right. And one thing about applying for Medicaid, and I don't know, and I imagine it may be across the board from state to state. Once it's approved, they could go back here in Nebraska, go back retro 3 months and pay those outstanding balances that was previous.
Right.
So they wasn't worried about getting their money because they knew at this point my dad was going to qualify because everything was gone. You know, any monies that he had, it was gone. Right. So this from that specialty hospital stay, which they just, it was terrible.
Yeah. This place where my mother was, this was the first place, the one where they dropped in with the doctor and all that kind of stuff. While she was there is when I was applying for Medicaid and getting all that done. And it did get approved. And then they had the nerve to send me a $12,000 bill for something. No, she was approved retroactively.
Right.
So, no, you know. No. Anyway, we could go on and on and on. Jawanda. We've been talking.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again because there's so much to caring for.
What I would like for you to do next time is talk about the caregiving that you're doing now, because some people might be interested in hearing about that that you're doing in your home with the developmentally disabled people. But we appreciate you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Having a conversation, and you enlightened us, and just your experience. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys keep doing what you're doing, support one another. I already know. I've been there with both parents. That it's not easy.
Right.
It is not easy. And especially because you know, you see mom and dad going through their second childhood, so to speak. No disrespect to them, but it's
that's what it is.
But they know they full grown and they know that you're the child. And so trying to balance them to that I'm grown, you don't tell me what to do. You do what I tell you to do. And trying to care for them. it's a hard juggling act.
Right.
It
And
is,
if you're
it
still
is.
working or you got kids, you got grandkids, and you got your own ailments going on at the same time,
Right.
it's difficult.
It's a lot.
It is.
It's really difficult. I had it where, my mother was young and I had young kids.
Right.
And then I had it when my dad was older. My dad passed away at 86 in 2017. And my kids were grown. But, I pulled my babies in there. No, I need your help.
Right.
I'm tired too.
Right.
I need your help. So, he likes to eat what he wants to eat. And I remember one time my dad said, I want some oxtails. Well, my daughter ain't never had no oxtails. So I said, well, your grandfather wants some oxtails. You go find him some oxtails. You have to go into the, Black community to find some probably. And she called me, Mom, I see some turkey tails. Is that the same thing? And I'm like, girl, don't you bring home no turkey tails. But, they figured it out. They figured out how to cook what he liked. They knew how to take it up to him when he wasn't eating. You have to find out who you can make part of that village.
And that's what
it may not be your siblings. It may not be the people that you think will be closest.
Right.
But you have to create your own village, and you have to be able to say, I need help.
Right.
Definitely.
Yes.
Right.
My husband has been, even when my husband was sick, he was still so supportive. And I can remember when my mom was ill, and he says, I will help. And they were very close. He says, I'll help as much as I can, but I don't want to have to take her to the bath. If we get to a place where she has to go to the bathroom, I don't want to have to do that.
Right, that's
understandable. But when it came down to it, I'm not at home.
Right.
He did it anyways.
Right.
He did whatever he needed to do.
You'd be surprised what you can do, because I never thought
until you do it.
I would be doing some of the things I have to do. I'm having to look in places that I never thought I'd have to look.
The nooks and the crannies.
Nooks and crannies, but you just do.
Yeah.
You don't stop.
You just do. And once he says he did, he says, well, I took her. I said, oh, you took her to the bathroom? He said, yeah.
My mom, when she was in one of her facilities, honestly, the best aide that she had was a guy. I was a little hesitant at first.
Yeah, don't you?
But he took care of my mom. He took care of my mom. So
because there's so many people who do what they do,
right?
Because that's just who they are.
Yeah,
they're going to be a caregiver.
Yeah.
And that's all. I don't know nothing else. I've had, the people I take care of now, I had to do interviews with their families, guardians, or whatever. And they're like, well, why would you want to do? I've been a caregiver all my life.
Right.
From a child, taking care of younger siblings.
Right.
I don't know nothing else.
All you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's what I know. It's what. And if I ain't taking care of someone, I think it's something wrong. I gotta find somebody to take care of. So
that's right. That's
it works for me. But that's not everybody's story. I know for my husband, he's like, I don't want to take care of nobody.
Right.
And I understand that too. And I understand that for some of the siblings. They just can't handle it. But I will say this, and I'll let you guys know. One thing I hate to hear people say is, I can't stand to see them like that.
Right.
But did you ever imagine what it's like to be in a nursing home and have no visitors or nothing that you can say is normal? If you can't stand to see them, think about it. They can't stand to be there. They can't stand to be away from their family.
Exactly.
That's right.
They need, that connection with family and friends and stuff. That's what's keeping them going. So that stupid excuse that you can't stand to see them like that, they ain't trying to be like that.
Right.
So make it be the best that it can be for them.
My cousin told me one time, isn't it hard seeing your mother like, yeah, it is, but okay. It is hard. Because I, as a matter of fact, I tell Matt, I call my mom my new mom. I have an old mom and I have a new mom, even though my old mom is still there too, but I have to call her my new mom because some of the stuff that she does, that my old mom wouldn't have done that. But it's like, it's hard for me to see her be like she is, but what am I going to do? You just do.
That's
right. So we could go on and on and on.
But we'd
Thank
like to
you.
thank you for
And
coming.
we're gonna have you back too.
Definitely.
Okay.
Okay, so thank
I
you.
enjoy the conversation.
Yeah, same here. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Mac,
This is the
that
end
was
to
good.
our.
Yeah, you can just click leave, Jawanda. Okay. Look, okay. So that was insightful, and I hope
Very much so.
I hope people, something resonated with hearing her story.
Yeah, definitely. And they gained some knowledge and
I know
what to
I
look
did too.
for
I hadn't really thought about, because I was so mad with
at
the
the
facility,
yeah, the nursing home,
that I didn't even
think about
that.
the sender.
Yes,
Mhm.
that just never really occurred to me. But she's really right about having to, be nice,
Yeah, and build that relationship with staff.
There are a couple people who cared for my mother when she was in the facility, and they come visit my mother, every now and then too. And
Nice.
one of her caregivers now is who worked with her at the daycare, and she calls my mother mama and all of that. So you have to be nice.
You really do.
There's a part of you that just wants to go off, with something, but you really have to. It's a way to do things, because then they'll get resentful, and then they'll just take it out on
your parent.
And like she said, stop by. I would go to the nursing to the facility 1 o'clock at night sometimes.
Yeah, you have to do a pop there.
Yeah, all hours of the night to see what's going on.
Just to see. Yeah.
And then my mom had a roommate one of those times where the roommate could talk and everything. The roommate would fill me in on things that happened during the day with my mom.
That's good.
Right, because I'd bring my mother something, I'd bring her something. I'd bring her something.
That's right.
I'm gonna look out for her. So
that's good.
This has been a long episode.
Yeah, one of the longest diary entries we've had, but very informative entry. And it costs nothing to support us. So please like, subscribe, and share. And as always,
who cares?
G and Mac cares.
Bye-bye.